Hey legends, welcome along to the show. This is part 2 to the key of Vector Sigma. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart. That's here's Rodder's Reviews. And tasty little episode of a little bit of self-sacrifice to open up the show. I knew yesterday whenever I was making the episode for part 1, that was starting to come back to me while I was talking about it. And at the beginning of the episode, the Autobots are on Cybertron. They've decided they're going to create their own jets out of the ancient machines that they found outside of Vector Sigma. The Decepticons have returned to Earth with the Stunticons. They've started attacking, and the humans believe that these new cars that have appeared belong to the Autobots, which in fact is not true. They're part of the Decepticons. But back on Cybertron, they've created the aerial bots, and they need Vector Sigma now to bring life to the aerial bots in the same way that it did for the Stunticons. Give them personalities, bring them to life properly. Vector Sigma is a supercomputer that started all life in Cybertron. Now, only problem with this is Megatron left and took the key to Vector Sigma with him, but Alpha Trion, not telling Optimus Prime, and you find out why he was kind of reluctant at the end of the last episode to actually create the aerial bots, is because he knew there was only one way to reactivate Vector Sigma, and that was to use the other key that is in fact Alpha Trion himself. He was one of the first Transformers to ever be created by Vector Sigma, so he has a similar circuit programming system to Vector Sigma, so he is 100% compatible as a key to start Vector Sigma. Optimus Prime isn't happy about this, but you know, Alpha Trion says this has to happen, and he goes through with it, and Optimus Prime is like, one Autobot has given his life to bring life to 5 more. It's a noble sacrifice. So the jets are brought to life. Optimus Prime introduces himself, and they introduce themselves back, and we're the Autobots, and we fight against the Decepticons, blah 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 blah, and we have to go back to Earth now to save our new home, essentially. We also discovered during all this that the key to Vector Sigma that Megatron has taken back to Earth has a really destructive side that could destroy the planet, and of course Shockwave has been sneaking about in the background throughout all of this, discovers this information and passes that on to Megatron on Earth. So Megatron starts all these tests to work out what this power is and how can he use it to his own advantage, and he eventually discovers that the key to Vector Sigma will transform pretty much anything on Earth into metal. So he's decided that he's going to change Earth into the new Cybertron. So this is the big thing the Autobots have to stop now. So on the return trip to Earth, Omega Supreme malfunctions, and when they get back to Autobot headquarters, he calls for the Autobots to evacuate as quick as possible. He says there's an explosion imminent, and he does indeed explode, but the Autobots manage to save his brain circuits, and if they can rebuild his body in time, they can resurrect him, essentially. And the aerial bots, being young, new Transformers, are very arrogant in this episode, and they kind of feel that they don't need the Autobots. They feel because they can fly and the Autobots can't, they're better than Optimus Prime and the rest of them. Apart from Silverbolt, he is appointed the leader of their aerial bots, but interestingly, for a Transformer that has the ability to fly, he's afraid of heights. So that's interesting. That plays into the final part of this episode as well. So they decide to turn their backs on the Autobots, and the Autobots go to try and confront the Decepticons, but with the Stunticons there, they still have an edge over the Autobots, and they're getting their asses handed to them. And the aerial bots are, their minds are changed by Silverbolt whenever he pretty much takes up that mantle of leadership and shows them everything that's happening and why it's happening and whatnot. And the Autobots, even though they're, in a way, they're better than the humans they're trying to protect, they're willing to go out there and risk themselves to do the right thing. And why should we be any different than them? And in Autobot headquarters, they see Omega Supreme getting rebuilt, and Sparkplug's there along with Ratchet. Ratchet's running low on energy on, so he takes a break, and one of their Autobots comments that the robot had to go and recharge, but the human is working on. Why is that? And it's because of his worry for a friend, more or less. And the Autobots start to see the error of their ways, and they decide to get back and help the Autobots. So at the end, we have a big confrontation between the aerial bots and the Stunticons, and Megatron's changing the planet into metal in the background. Everybody's trying to stop him, but they can't get close to him because of everything that's happening. And eventually he calls out the surprise superpower of the Stunticons, and that's that they're a combiner like the Constructicons. They can transform into a giant robot called Menasor. And yes, they think, okay, the Autobots are done for this time, but Prime is on one step ahead as well. Well, one step ahead. He's matching them move for move, essentially, and he tells the aerial bots to show them what they got, and they transform into a giant robot called Superion. So the battle begins between the two giant robots, and they're fairly evenly matched until the surprise help lands at the end of the episode, when Omega Supreme, fully restored, arrives on the scene to help out the new Autobots, and they beat Menasor back, and Megatron calls the retreat. And only problem with that is he still has the key to Vector Sigma in his hand, so Silverbolt, he transforms afraid of heights, goes after Megatron, manages to blast the key out of his hand, and as he falls back to Earth, he transforms, takes a shot, pot shot, and destroys the key. But yes, this hasn't, even though he's made a step towards getting over his fear of heights, at the end of the episode, whenever the aerial bots transform to go back to headquarters, he's like, it's okay boys, I think I'll walk. So that's pretty much it for the key to Vector Sigma. It's just an introduction to two new combiner teams in the series, the aerial bots and the Stunticons, and it's a very, very good two-parter. I really did enjoy it, and that whole thing with Alpha Trion and his moment of self-sacrifice to help his friends is just, that's something I haven't really seen. Could be wrong, but you don't really see that sort of selflessness in shows these days, or at least I haven't. Transformers was big for it. They had a lot of characters in there that had that sense of self-sacrifice, and just go to show kids growing up that you need to be willing to take that extra step to do the right thing sometimes. So I enjoyed it. Very good episode. If you haven't checked out Transformers before, perhaps a good entry would be the key to Vector Sigma, the two-parter. Yeah. Other than that, Heavy Metal War probably be a good one to start off on. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. I'll talk to you on the next one.